dive into historical and narrative nonfiction by well-known and emerging authors at the 2023 History Book Festival in Lewes.
The History Book Festival is based in Lewes. We began in 2016 with sort of all the things we needed to do to form. We did some test events to see how things went. What we found when we were first starting is when looking at some of the smaller book festivals around the country, it's like, oh my gosh, they could really not draw like a top shelf author like James McBride. But if we were to focus our book festival on a single subject, then we could potentially get a more interesting range of authors.
So what Jen didn't quite tell you about the festival is that she and Ron Collins are the co-founders of this festival, and it is the only festival in the United States that is solely dedicated to history and historical fiction, and that is huge. We are literally the only people doing this. And I was so happy when Jen approached me to be the official bookseller for the festival, because I so believe in what the festival's doing and bringing amazing authors to Southern Delaware. And we've managed to build a whole, world around this festival, and attendees come back year after year after year, and they bring their friends, and even just the word of mouth about the festival has been amazing, because our program committee and the festival board have worked so hard to bring in diverse voices and diverse stories. Another great thing about the festival is that almost all of the events are free. One of the festival's missions is obviously to bring these stories to as many people as possible, and not to as many people as can pay for it, to as many people in our community as we can. The two closing and opening events, those are ticketed, but we have 20 authors on Saturday, and those events are completely free, which is amazing.
Right, but even the ticket for like James McBride or our opening keynote, which is Steve Inskeep, those are only the cost of the book. And if you think about it, so part of your book purchase, thanks to Browseabout's generosity, every book purchased, some of that comes back to help fund the festival, and the rest of it goes back into our community.
Jen has a great philosophy that this festival is here to raise all boats. We don't, we do have donors, which is amazing, but we do try to support our hotels, our restaurants, things like that. So it really is an event that we hope speaks to almost everyone in our community, and helps everyone in our community, which I think is super, super important.
Because our philosophy is the more connected we are, the more powerful we are, the more we can do together. Yeah.
And I think, we were saying earlier that it's so important for people to hear stories that are different from their own. And also, at the same time, to see themselves in history too, right? So people who might feel isolated or different or whatever could see themselves in one of these stories and not feel so alone. People who haven't been exposed to these, to a different person's story could develop some empathy and some knowledge. So it's powerful. I feel like this festival is really powerful in that regard.
And that ripples out, obviously, our community organizations, but also into schools, because we're spending all this work and money to bring these authors here, and to put them up and to feed them and all that while they're here. So we might as well get the most out of their time as possible. So a bunch of our authors this year will be going out into local schools, so throughout Sussex County. Susan can tell you about the picture book authors, because this is a program that primarily appeals to people who read at an adult level, but we try to include a picture book panel so that we can then take the picture book authors into our primary schools as well.
So the presentation is for adults. Obviously, we're going to have 3 picture book authors and a moderator, and they're going to talk about more of the process and the women behind, because our panel this year is Forgotten Women in History. So they're going to talk about why they chose these women, their art, their stories, how they come up with their ideas, but then they're actually going to get to reach the kids, which is so important. And we take them all over Sussex County and beyond.
Yeah. So your one-stop source for information is historybookfestival.org. So just historybookfestival.org. And then the dates of this year's festival are September 29th. That is Friday, and that's our keynote with Steve Inskeep and Christina Schutt, who's the head of the Lincoln Library. And then that event is sold out. There is a wait list. And then Saturday the 30th, that's 20 free events all over Lewes. There's a little shuttle that runs between. There is booksellers, there's food trucks, there's wonderful eateries in downtown Lewes. It's super fun. And then Sunday at 1 is our closing address with James McBride.
This segment of CoastLife was brought to you by Browse About Books.